Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome here to the Launchpad. You are looking at a live view of Starbase, Texas, where SpaceX has destacked Starship S29 from Suborbital Pad B, unhooked it from the crane and the kind of claw attachment, and has now begun rolling it to the entrance. There, you can see S29 approaching Starhopper as it prepares to roll back to the build site. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad, and you're joining us for our live Starship S29 rollback coverage. We're going to be giving you updates and following it as it rolls all the way back to the build site as we count down just T-minus 1 day, 16 hours, 35 minutes, 45 seconds, and counting till launch of that big Starship on the left side of your screen that's poking off the top. Starship S28 Booster 10 is stacked and ready for flight. SpaceX is now beginning to clear the orbital launch facility of everything extra in preparation. We are still eagerly awaiting that FAA launch license, and of course we will bring you an update the moment we have that from the FAA on the current status. We're also waiting for the evacuation zone notice to be issued for Boca Chica Village. That at this time has not, and of course we are still having an active pad, but we will hopefully see that clear out hours prior to propellant loading. If it's your first time here, take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. We got people tuning in all over the world. I see Germany, we got South Africa, great to see you. Two South Africas, Indianapolis, great to see you. We see Italy, Indiana, I see Maryland, I see Cape Canaveral, I see Dublin, Ireland, I see Essex, UK, Greenland, Canada, Oklahoma, Florida, Milan, Italy. We'll be coming there later this year. Make sure you stay tuned for info about that. We got Madagascar, Georgia, Yorkshire, more Essex. Great to see you all joining us in here today. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us as we continue to follow S29 as it gets ready to roll out of the orbital launch facility, beginning its journey out to the build site. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and I'll work on answering those live while I continue to monitor the cameras here. And as we continue to count down to launch of Starship S28 and Booster 10. S29 conducted a spin prime test yesterday afternoon of what looked to be all 6 engines. Looked to be a successful test after they aborted the test a few days earlier. Now, SpaceX is, as I said, beginning to clear the orbital launch facility to bring everything possible away from it for the flight test, which is now just a day and a half away. Multiple of our TLP rocket chasers are currently in the air or in the terminals, beginning their journey out to Starbase, Texas. Thanks to your guys' generous support, we're sending some team out there to get some photos of the full stack and bringing live and photo and video coverage of launch. So make sure you stay tuned to our social medias for that. We do have a 24/7 countdown to launch stream also running. So if you're joining us for the rollback, make sure you join us over on the 24/7 countdown to launch stream, where you can see the live cam. We've been looking around at Starbase, seeing all the activity. It's been a busy day. They've been working on not only the orbital launch mount with the full stack, working with S29, they've been working with the booster and the rocket garden, and of course they are building Star Factory. So a busy day down at Starbase. Just even though we're less than 2 days away from a flight test, many other processes are still underway. It's great to have so many of you joining us here. As I said, if you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We do expect that Starship will sit here for a little bit of time in preparation for the intermittent row closure to be put into effect so that they can begin rolling it down the about 2-mile journey down to the build site where we expect it to be stored. Will it go into the build site, or will it go into the rocket garden? That is something we'll have to wait and see. But some of us were hoping they were going to leave it out there for some truly incredible pictures of Starship sitting while the other one was launching. But they are going to be rolling it back to make sure that it is protected for flight. Lots of people just joining us. If you are, welcome. You're looking at a live view where SpaceX is beginning to, they've moved Starship S29 into position for rollback to the build site. And we're just waiting for that row closure to go into effect so they can begin heading out onto Highway 4. We'll see S29 roll around Starhopper to actually be able to exit the orbital launch facility. But we will have a great view of it heading all the way back. A little bit of a hazier day than the last couple of days we've seen, but that's okay. We can still have a great view thanks to our first of many 24/7 cameras coming in Texas, but also around the world. Sammy's asking, is this live? Yes, this is live. Wait, is the launch on Friday? It is on Thursday the 14th. So today's date is Tuesday, March 12th. It is currently 2:28 local time at Starbase, 3:28 p.m. Eastern, and we are T-minus 1 day, 16 hours, 31 minutes, and 1 second, and counting till launch. Ghost, is this a test or is it going to the ISS? So the test flight of the full stack, which is on the left side of your screen, which I can move the camera over to, is going to be on a suborbital demonstration flight where it will come back down in the Indian Ocean for the ship. The booster will come down in the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to adjust the camera here a little bit so you guys can see that full stack on your screen while we await S29 to begin its journey out to the build site. We do expect that to begin in the near future. Satnet, thanks so much for becoming a suborbital explorer. We appreciate that. And Weejin, thank you so much for your 40, I believe it's Juan, super chat. We appreciate that. Moving the camera over just a little bit, bring us out just so you can see that full stack. And you can also see crews beginning to already work to remove the crane attachment points that they use to lift Starship S29 as well. If there's anything specifically you want to see, let us know in the chat. Tag us at the Launchpad with those questions or things you want us to zoom in and look at while we await the rollout of S29. Lots of people just tuning in. Thanks so much for being here. We got Honduras. We was there about just over a month ago. Absolutely beautiful. It was a Rotan. We've got Germany. I see Hong Kong. I see Greece, North Macedonia, Italy, New Brunswick, Portugal, Texas. Great to have you here. Joe Dog made it. I'm glad you made it, Joe Dog. You're here for the rollout. Tony, I'll take off Boca Chica. Awesome. We got Erwin is in New York. We got Robo in Utah. Great to have you all joining us here. Rex is asking, is S29 going to be for IFT4? Well, we don't know what they're going to end up calling Flight 4, but we expect that there's going to be at least Flight Test 5 and possibly Flight Test 6. It's actually been interesting to talk with some of the people within SpaceX. SpaceX never actually called these flight tests IF or OFTs. The community did that, and because the community kind of dictates the industry, so many people started calling it. It started showing up on SpaceX paperwork. So we kind of ended up naming these as a global space fan base. But SpaceX has just always called them flight tests. Flight Test 1, Flight Test 2, and Flight Test 3. They ended up calling integrated flight test for the first one because that's what they said. It's not an orbital flight test, so it's an integrated flight test. I hope that we will see multiple orbital flight tests this year. SpaceX has requested from the FAA in a modification to their launch license request up to 9 flights this year, which means we would have enough approval to basically have one a month for the rest of the year, which would be absolutely amazing to see. We also are expecting them to do more construction near the suborbital tank farm and beginning the tower construction of the second Starship orbital launch pad in Starbase. Earlier today, we heard from some of the team in Florida that SpaceX has actually begun removing some of the orbital launch mount in Florida. The legs around the orbital launch mount pad had been disconnected and were being moved away. So lots of questions on what the future of Launch Complex 39A's Starship pad looks like. This tower is built in modular sections, so we'll have to wait to see if they actually are just changing the pad or are taking the pad out to have it in Texas. We do know they have an OLM already built in Florida. We saw that well over 2 years ago now. year and a half ago, that was basically ready. So they have many aspects of a second tower sitting, waiting, ready. That if they can bring that all to Texas, we could probably see the fastest development of a Starship launch tower. Some of the questions are, what's going to happen with the chopsticks? Are we going to see these really long chopsticks like we see on the current screen, which the length of those is actually close to 2.5 school buses for distance, to give you a concept of size, where the ones in Florida are actually just enough to reach Starship. They don't have any little extra room at the end for it. So different concept there. Or are we going to see another set of these bigger ones built for the second tower? If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat, tagging us at the Launchpad. Sammy's turning 13 tomorrow. Happy birthday. Great to have you watching. Thanks for being here. You guys can keep sending in your questions in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad. Left of right, a rapid unscheduled disassembly. That's seems like we hope we don't see that in flight, but that sounds like what's going to happen down in Florida as they get ready to develop this second tower in Starbase. We saw they already shipped all of the tower segments, or most of the tower segments from Florida, out to Starbase. Of the other tower they had already built in Florida, they are building a couple more segments there, as the next tower will actually be taller than the current one. It's going to be at least one, if not two segments taller, as SpaceX is planning the next generation of these ships and boosters, which will be extended anywhere from 10 to 15% each, which means they would not fit on the current tower. So we're expecting to see that tower be developed by the end of the year. If you guys haven't yet, take a moment, head on over to our shop. The link is in the description there. We do have our limited edition IFT3 patch. That's our own TLP IFT3 patch that you can get. It's limited edition. It's only going to be available for a very short time. We have it in shirts, hoodies, women's cuts. We have it in a sticker, a water bottle, a flag, and even a really soft, cozy blanket. So definitely check that out. Global shipping's available, and all of the profits of that go back to supporting our rocket chasers and our crew as we expand and bring you even more of these 24/7 cameras down at Starbase and around the world. Also, while you're doing it, join us over on the TLP Discord. It's where our community hangs out in between streams, talks about everything. Of course, we now have live cameras down at Starbase, so there's lots to always be keeping an eye out for. And definitely love seeing you guys hanging out in those live comms and chats, talking about everything space, as we are really in this new era. It has been a busy week, and it is only just beginning. Of course, we're counting down to the Flight Test 3. We had Electron early this morning, Crew 7. We've been tracking them for the last 2 days. We've had 3 Falcon 9 flights in the last 5 days. We have Japan launching a demo flight later tonight. Falcon 9 again tomorrow. It is always a busy day with rocket launches happening all over the world. Poptreptica is asking what type of vehicle moves the ship. So it's called an STMP. It's a vehicle that has multiple wheels on it. It kind of almost looks like a caterpillar, but of wheels rather than feet. And it is something that is remote controlled by one driver, and they are able to actually control each leg individually to be able to steer it where they need to go for roll out or roll back. So that is what they end up using. They have some different ones depending what they're rolling out. If it's a ship, a booster, a tank, that they can kind of affect the size of what it is, depending what they're needing to move and the weight of what they're needing to move. Thanks for sending that in. The man Walter, any idea how long this is going to take? I finally made it to one of your streams, but I only have about 20 minutes left. I hope we see it start moving in the next 20 minutes for you, the man Walter, but unfortunately that is something that SpaceX runs on their own timeline. They are obviously also working with the sheriff to set up the intermediate road closure down there. We are taking just a double confirmation of the road closures that they have today. Today is March 12th. So they do have the ability from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Oh, they don't. They actually canceled today's full road closure. So there is no testing scheduled for today. But we do know that they have been authorized to do what they're calling intermediate road closures, which is they don't have to publish them. For that, they are able to just set up a kind of convoy with the ship, because it doesn't take more than about an hour or so to do the full rollback 2 if things go slow, and they are able to actually pull to the side and sometimes let vehicles around. One of the things the FAA is actually required of SpaceX is for them to start building off kind of side pockets that they can, move forward 1/4 of a mile, pull to the side, let traffic resume for a few minutes, keep going, and do that. So that's something SpaceX is developing. Taking a look actually at the road closures, we have had confirmation that SpaceX has canceled both today, March 12th, and tomorrow, March 13th, road closures completely, which means there is no more testing happening on the orbital launch mount of the full stack. It is ready to go. The next road closure is at 12 a.m. on March 14th, which is the launch window. They do have backups of the 15th and 16th should they be required. With those road closures, that does also mean the beach will be cleared in preparation for flight. Mark Duffy, did I hear correctly that there is a settling issue with the launch pad and the tower? Not that I have heard internally or externally, but I will take a look and see if I can find anything on that, Mark. Thanks for sending that in. Sorry I don't know more about that. That man Walter, but yeah, it's nice to finally make one of your live streams. I have more people coming to watch. Well, I appreciate that man Walter. Everyone be like the man Walter. Share out the stream. Invite people to join us as we await S29's rollout. We have zoomed out the camera here so you can see the beautiful full stack next to Starship. But this gives us an idea of what the future really is going to look like, where you'll have a full stack ship and you'll have extra ships sitting, waiting, ready to go, so that when one launches, the other ship will roll into place, the booster will come back and land, Chopsticks will pick up another ship, we'll refuel, and we'll go again. This is the Starship future that SpaceX has been dreaming of, and we are getting closer and closer to start seeing those operational flights begin, hopefully, by the end of this year. If you haven't yet, take a moment and engage the like button. It's a great way of helping us out. It's free to do so, and we appreciate you guys doing that. I know it's new for us to have these 24/7 cameras, and we're super excited about them to bring you commentary streams, but also the 24/7 live views. We're working on tweaking the camera settings more and more each day. We got some big ideas coming up after IFT3, so make sure you stay tuned for that as well as we continue to expand this type of coverage. Calgacus, hello, just tuned in from Scotland. Welcome. Great to have you here. Thanks for being here. Mark Duffy, about when they were stacking and it was struggling in line. It did take them quite a bit longer to align this time than they have others. It's possible that it was a different person that was doing it, but we'll have to wait and see. We actually just saw a peek behind Starship, if you were watching. The mount, I believe that they had the mount that they put the kind of claw attachment on to lift S29 has now rolled behind Starship on the ground. So that is a good sign that they are preparing this convoy for a rollback, because they'll rather move multiple things at once than the others. The crane we expect to stay out at the orbital launch site. We do expect it to fold down and lay as low as it can. This is what happened during IFT1 and during IFT2. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll work on answering those live as we continue through today's feed awaiting S29 rollout. And it does look like they are really getting ready to begin this, and it looks like Starship is moving. You can see on the left side here, we'll actually pan the camera just a little bit to the left. You can see that adapter that carries the claw that Starship was picked up with on the left side of your screen beginning to move out to the left. That is where the main entrance of the orbital farm is, orbital launch facility, is, and Starship is following closely behind. So rollout is now underway down at Starbase, Texas, and S29 is beginning its journey. That man, Walter, you lucked out. You're getting to see some movement. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat. taking us at the launch pad. Also, make sure you share out the stream, invite people to join us as we continue to follow there. The adapter that is the mount that's holding the Starship lift claw is now completely out on Highway 4, beginning its journey to the build site, and Starship S29 is approaching that main door here. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad, and you're joining us for live rollback coverage of Starship S29 back to the build site ahead of Starship Flight Test 3. This is one of the key milestones we are expecting to see from SpaceX as they prepare the orbital launch facility for Thursday's flight test. S29 is currently on one of their custom STMPs that has a special mount that Starship is able to attach to. They'll be beginning the journey there. If you happen to be out on Highway 4, now's the time to pull over to the side of the road and get your camera ready. S29 is going to be passing by here shortly. The man Walter's got 15 more minutes and gets yelled at. Well, at the rate they're going, you're going to see a good chunk of movement here. It does take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to 2 hours, all dependent on how quickly they want to go, and then as long as they don't have any issues with the STMP. So you'll get to see a good chunk of that, and you can always come back and watch the replay. We did start this as an independent commentary stream on top of our 24/7 camera. We will always do that if we're providing commentary, so you guys, if you miss a stream, can come back and see the activity as it happened. You can see the adapter there. Well, it just kind of fanned out of view there, getting ready to pass in front of Starhopper in the very bottom right corner of your screen. That is where the claw that was attached to the crane not even an hour ago is now beginning its journey down Highway 4 as the S29 makes its way out onto Highway 4 now as well. We will see now Starship begin to turn as it straightens up on Highway 4, beginning that journey. And we're going to be following it all the way back to the build site, which means we will lose sight of the orbital launch facility for a little bit of time. But we'll be following it all the way back to the build site, showing a little teaser of what we can do with some of these cameras. Tom Arnold, thank you so much for upgrading your membership to Solar Explorer. We appreciate your support. Man, Walter, thanks so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. In a future bigger stream, if it's a crew launch or IFT3 or anything like that, if you guys send in some photos during some of our bigger streams, we want to see your guys' watch parties, and we'll be bringing some of those up on air. So the man Walter, for Flight 3, if you end up doing a staff watch party, send in a photo and we'll get you guys all a shout out. Hyde, I want to see a full stack go for a walk. That is, I hope, never going to happen. If we see the full stack walk away from the orbital launch mount, we have a problem. A very large problem. But we are glad to have you all joining us here. Starship S29 now officially on Highway 4, beginning its roll back to the build site. I'm going to bump out the camera just a little bit here. Give a little bit of a clearer view as it begins its journey. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad. We'll work on answering those live. Also, make sure you head over to the Launchpad shop to check out our limited edition TLP Flight Test 3 patch. We've got that on a bunch of merch that you guys can get, but it's only going to be available for a very limited time, but global shipping is available. We've had price drops over the last few months, so if you haven't seen the shop recently, check it out. It's a whole brand new shop with all new pricing, making it even more affordable to get your hands on some TLP launch gear. And we can see S29 has begun to roll to the right, beginning its 2-mile journey back to the build site. We'll pan to the right as we follow along with it. You can also see that crane claw adapter on the far right of your screen here has already really started to pass on its journey. Starship S29 eclipsing the orbital launch pad and full stack, saying its final farewell to Starhopper as it heads back to the build site. Of course, we are all hoping Starhopper survives another orbital launch from the orbital launch pad. If you happen to be along Highway 4 and you take some photos or videos, make sure you send it to us over on social media or via Discord for a chance to be shouted out on our social media and get a discount code for the TLP shop. We'd love to see your view. That also works on launch days. If you happen to take a photo of a launch for a chance to get a discount on the shop, make sure you send us those photos on social media. Tom Arnold will be watching with his grandparents on Thursday. That's awesome. Yeah, let us know in the chat. What are your guys' launch day plans? Tassello, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Appreciate your support and what we're doing. We're excited to roll out a bunch more of these cameras over the coming months, and that's only thanks to your guys' generous support. And we have some exciting features coming to members as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. CBF, the SpaceX crew capsule, flew right over Arkansas. You watched it this morning. That is awesome. We had one of our TLP crew there as well. Ran outside and got to see an absolutely beautiful view of Crew 7 coming home. Really quick, less than an hour from splash to hatch open to crew egress. And the crew all looked really good after staying 6 months aboard the International Space Station. If you're just joining us, welcome here to the Launchpad. You're looking at a live view of the orbital launch facility where S29 looks like it's almost back to where it was, but it is out on Highway 4, be rolling back to the build site. If you guys happen to be heading down to Starbase for Flight Test 3, I know many people flying today and tomorrow, let us know in the chat where you're going to be watching from. We do have some of our TLP crew on the way down in the air right now. Getting ready to cover Thursday's flight test. Catching up on the chat. We're going to adjust the camera here and say goodbye to the orbital launch mount for the next little bit while we follow S29 on its roll back to the build site, coming up to that new Gateway to Mars sign and SpaceX sign on the side of the orbital launch facility and the suborbital launch facility. You can see the suborbital launch facility just in the bottom left corner, just peeking out above the treetops. That crane is being prepared to be lowered into a store position ahead of the test flight as well. The questions coming in. The man Walter, what time is launch time? They are targeting 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern is what we believe they're targeting. 40 hours from now, 1 day, 16 hours for it. They do have a 4-hour launch window. We have confirmed that with SpaceX, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that if they need to. The biggest thing that we are watching are winds for the weather conditions at this time. Tom Arnold, do you personally think IFT3 will be 100% successful? If not, where do you think the problems may occur? I think we have two very, well, They're introducing a lot more failure points on this flight than we've had previously. They're doing a demonstration of opening the payload door. They are going to do a demonstration of propellant transfer on board. They're going to do a demonstration of payload door close and a demonstration of Raptor vacuum in orbit, or not orbit, but in vacuum relight. So that's 4 demonstrations they've never done before, all in one flight. So we have a lot of more points of failure. I think if we can get through hot staging and the booster can flip around and do its boost back and not explode, that's a huge success and milestone to achieve. And then the question is, does Starship get to payload door open? If it gets to payload door open, anything after that is a success. Obviously, a huge milestone would be it going for re-entry and conducting the first ever re-entry, as we have still yet to see a Starship re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. And that is a huge thing. They need to prove that these heat tiles work and are trustworthy, because in just 2 years, they're putting people on this. So we really need to start seeing these re-entry flights happen. And that's what we're going to be watching for, hopefully here in 2 days' time. Now, instead of going all the way around to Hawaii, this time they're going to be going to the Indian Ocean. So that is something a little bit different as well. But thanks for sending that in. Great question. We are still awaiting the FAA launch license. We're hoping that we have it here for today. We did just have confirmation that SpaceX does have this intermittent road closure scheduled from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time. Obviously, rollout is underway, but they were able to schedule that intermediate one. They did close the full road closure, which would be for testing when they actually close the beach as well. Tubby, it will be 7 a.m. I have to decide between laying in bed watching on tiny phone or watching on a 130-inch projector. I mean, I think I know what I would say. Maybe the chat can help you decide by letting you know phone or projector. But I think I'd pick the projector. I mean, I picked their being there in person first, and then I think I'd pick projector. If you're just joining us, we are heading back to the build site with Starship S29. And have a little guest appear in the bottom of our screen as we watch S29 journey back to the build site. You can keep sending those questions in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad. And the man Walter, yes, definitely do not be watching the launch while driving. We do not recommend. Tom Arnold, did they fix the tiles that flew off by the nose when they tested the vents? I have not seen them go all the way up that high yet, since they've stacked it. So we'll wait and see. If you're talking S29, it's going back to the build site, so they'll do it then. If it's on the full stack, they'll be doing those final inspections today and tomorrow. Billy Bobble, assuming it all goes perfect, what happens to the FTS? Is it somehow remotely disarmed or live explosives sitting on the bottom of the ocean? That's a really great question. Every Falcon 9 flight has flight termination on the first and second stage. We hear the call out for FTS armed and disarmed all the time, but it's so normal for us to hear, we don't really think about it with Falcon. But all rockets are required to have flight termination in case they, for some reason, do go out of control. For Starship, when they come back in for re-entry, they will disarm the FTS. So FTS is not armed when they are in orbit. It is not armed during re-entry. It is something that is used during very active points of flight to make sure that it doesn't end up going towards something that it shouldn't. So they will deactivate that for that, and then they will... we've talked to some people in our crew actually thinking, you know, if the ship or the booster land softly, they're not going to want these things floating. So theoretically, they could arm and activate the flight termination there to detonate and sink the ship or the booster, because they're not going to be recovering them from the sea for this mission. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But if not, they'll just be deactivated, and they'll just be basically small amounts of C4 that are sitting on the bottom of the ocean without really an ignition source. We're going to say goodbye to the alien as we follow S29 that continues its journey towards the build site. Build site will come into view here, not too distant future. Pop Treptica taking the day off of work to watch this launch. Please don't scrub. I've heard many people doing that, including our own crew. So we hope it doesn't scrub, but we hope they use that 4-hour window to their ability. They are targeting a little bit earlier than they did before, about an hour earlier, which means we might have a chance to see a beautiful sunrise launch of Starship. Big question, will we see a Starship jellyfish for the first time? Jessica, it's a Starship moonwalk. It definitely does look like it. Good morning, Jennifer. Thanks for joining us. Welcome. Michael King will be heading to South Padre Wednesday for the launch. That's awesome. Michael, if you take any photos or videos, make sure you send us those in Discord or on social media. That man, Walter, well, you get back to work, but thanks so much for being here, and we hope to see you on launch day or back here in the future. Thanks for joining us. You can see they've definitely increased the speed of travel for these ships over the last 3 years. They used to be very slow, multi-hour rollouts, and now they really know what they're doing. They trust the highway. They repave it every number of months. They know the STMP, and they know the ship is bolted down and is able to be secured safe enough that they don't have to go as slow as they have in the past. Continuing to follow S29 as it pans across the horizon, heading towards the build site, waiting for that region to come into view. Catching up on the chat. You can send those questions in the chat by taking us at the Launchpad. Star Watcher, is it getting to be that time? Could be with you, Zach, and everyone here. See you soon. Unfortunately and fortunately, I'm not heading down for IFT3. I'm going to be hosting it here live from our TLP Canada studio. Just with the deployment of our new cameras and everything, we want to make sure we have our systems running to the best ability to bring you guys the best possible coverage. Personally, of course, I want to be there. I want to feel the rumble of Starship, but we want to make sure we're bringing you guys the best possible coverage. So we do have some of our team heading out, but I'll definitely, hopefully, be heading down for 4 or 5. We'll be down there for the first catch attempt. We've already said for sure going to be there for that. And these are going to become far more frequent. These are not going to be as frequent as Falcon 9 for a little while, but it's going to become very normal that we see these 9 Starship flights maybe this year, if the FAA says yes. We have a boat, one of the great whale watching opportunities, or dolphin watching, opportunities, and Port of Brownsville tour down there. Done one of those last time I was down, 2 trips ago when I was down. It was really great. Some amazing dolphins out in the bay. When we're not following Starship, we normally try to keep the camera out just a little bit more so you guys can see the wildlife of the channel of the Port of Brownsville. See some of the activity. Pop checker, if S28 had to be rolled back, would they need to remove the explosives? Yes. Yeah, they would not be moving. They would destack, and then the FTS boombox crew would approach and remove the FTS system, and then they would be able to do rollback. But at this point, there's nothing showing that they would need to destack at this point for any reason, and that's what we're hoping to see maintain. I appreciate that, Star Watcher. We are working expanding the team, having some more commentators. S29 is going faster than I am. I need to adjust the camera again for you guys. Sorry about that. As it continues its journey out to the build site. Ian Harper, where is the best place to get models of Starship and Falcon 9 Heavy? Etsy. I have some really incredible ones off of Etsy. Nice thing with that is you can find local manufacturer 3D printers of them, and you can find them in a very large, different variety of scale, depending on what type of room you're trying to put them in. I have 5-foot tall Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Not everyone has room for that, so there's definitely smaller ones you can see there. SpaceX unfortunately doesn't have models of their vehicles, but it is something that we've looked into for the future, and we'll see what happens. If you're just joining us, though, welcome. T-minus 1 day, 15 hours, 56 minutes and counting till the launch of Flight Test 3 with Starship with Ship 28 and Booster 10. We are currently watching Ship 29, which conducted a spin prime test yesterday, heading back to the build site. It's not beginning its journey anymore. It's well on its way back to the build site to be at a safe distance for Thursday's test flight. Ian Harper, 5 feet would cause a divorce. Fair. I have a YouTube studio excuse, so I'm a little bit lucky in that case. And my family doesn't come to this part of the house. We're glad to have you guys joining us here. If you're just joining us, this is a live view of S29 heading down Highway 4 in an intermediate road closure. There is a convoy of vehicles with it as it heads down. This is a temporary 2-hour road closure, but it's a road closure that basically you can be in front of it or behind it. You just can't go around it. And it gives a little bit of an idea of what we'll be able to bring you with the first of many cameras down at Starbase here. We will be bringing full rollout coverage in the future of ships and boosters, no matter the time. So we hope you'll come back and join us for that. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. Here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, docking, undocking, return to Earth, lunar landing, Starbase coverage, exclusive 101 interview, factory tour, or more. There's lots happening over this year, and we're excited to take you guys all along the way and take you all around the world as well. We'll be heading to Italy, we'll be heading to Germany, Starbase, Florida, Houston, and a bunch of other places in between throughout this year. So we hope that you will subscribe and come along with us as we take you to show you this new era of space exploration, not only of the big guys with SpaceX and NASA, but of everyone else in between. Starship is about halfway to the build site at this point, on the kind of 2-mile journey. We'll continue to follow it. It's on that kind of straightaway at this point. That's why it's picked up some of that speed. Catching up on the chat, seeing any last questions coming in. You can send those by tagging us at the Launchpad. And just peeking in on the right side of your screen there, you can see the mount that is taking the adapter that lifted S29 off of Suborbital Pad B. Starship trying to catch up to it as it headed out just a couple of minutes earlier. This is part of that convoy of clearing the orbital launch facility of anything that really doesn't need to be there for launch day. The less extra things there, the better, just in case there is any sort of issue. And we are going to break in here. Elon Musk has just tweeted, Flight 3 end of the week pending weather. SpaceX has tweeted 2 new full stack pictures. Elon retweeting that. Flight 3 end of the week pending weather. We still have no FAA launch license at this point. We don't know if that is implying a delay or not. But that's just coming across the XNet. That SpaceX is ready. They're waiting for that launch license, and they are waiting for good weather conditions for them to be able to conduct this Flight Test 3, which is a great sign, but we'll wait to see what that all means, see if we get any more information from SpaceX over the coming hours as we await that FAA launch license at this time. If you're just joining us, though, welcome here to the Launchpad. Take a moment, let us know where you're watching from in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Give some shout-outs there as we watch S29 begin its journey back down to or as it journeys down, to the build site. It's past the halfway point. Probably another 20-30 minutes we'll arrive at the build site into a safe region. We'll be following it all the way. We are awaiting that FAA launch license, checking to see if we've received anything from the FAA showing what their thoughts are, but nothing as of yet. Our team was expecting it yesterday based on previous timelines with IFT 1 and 2, but we'll have to see if we get it today, or if that tweet from Elon saying by end of week implies that we may be slipping with weather to Friday or Saturday. But we'll be keeping an eye on that and bringing you, of course, 24/7 coverage as we count down. You can see as we pan the Port of Brownsville Canal, journeying back to the build site, the variety of the dunes that we see here, but we'll be following S29 all the way back, and then we will transition back to looking at the orbital launch mount. Farhia, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, when is the first full stack for IFT4 expected? That is a really great question. At this point, we don't know. We do know S29 is what they're hoping to use for it. Elon did say in a X Space a number of weeks ago that if Flight Test 3 goes well, he expects to see a very rapid turnaround. I've talked to a number of people in our team and in the industry. Most of us are feeling that means less than 60 days. They would probably love to try to get it down to less than 30 days, especially since they asked for 9 flights this year, which is basically 1 a month till the end of the year. So I think their goal would be less than 60 with a kind of a stretch goal of less than 30 to the next one, especially since they're already testing S29. They've left it out there legitimately as long as they could ahead of the Flight Test 3 to get that spin prime in. They weren't able to get the static fire in, but they did get the spin prime. So I would expect S29 to roll out to the launch pad within probably 24 to 36 hours of Flight 3, so they can begin the testing campaign there. They'll, of course, have to inspect the orbital launch mount, pad, tower, see what has to be done to it following Flight Test 3 before they'll put another booster on there and begin testing the next boosters. But things are beginning to progress a lot faster. They're wanting to get to the point where they can produce a ship every 3 days and a booster every 7. So things are going to get very busy down at Starbase very quickly. And once they have Star Factory opened, that's going to also change how they are developing their vehicles. It's going to be very much more like a Tesla thing where raw materials go in one side and then Starship rings come out the other and get stacked in the mega bays for ships and boosters. Starship S29 is coming up on the restaurant down at Starbase, Texas, getting ready to turn towards the build site. So we should have the build site coming into view here now on your screen, starting to have that peek in as it begins its final approach. You can keep sending in those questions by tagging us at the Launchpad, or work on answering those live. Foxcloud, are you sure that the launch is going to happen on 3/14? That is based on the latest update SpaceX has given us as media. We are seeing it. Elon has also now tweeted they are hoping to have at least 6 more flights this year. So that is the confirmation that we've been expecting. They asked for 9. This would be flight 1 of this year, and 6 more. So they're hoping to have 7 Starship flights in 2024, which is absolutely, truly incredible pace. 3 Starship flights within a year period of time, if we have this one fly within the next month. Obviously, the first flight occurred April 20th, 2023. But 3 test flights of this scale of a vehicle, of any scale of any vehicle actually, is truly record-setting, as the size of this vehicle is truly astronomical of what it is. And the fact that they want to stretch that from 3 in 1 year to 7 in a year, that will be amazing to see, which means lots of activity happening down at Starbase. If we do have any updates to the launch time, we will bring that to you via an update on the launch timer on the top of your screen. Catching up on the chat and your questions. Ian already checked out Etsy. Glad you found some options there. You're always welcome to drop chat in the Discord there. Get some opinions if you always want as well. Anyone is welcome to join our Discord. It's available to anyone. It's free, but our members do have access to some behind the scenes areas as well. You can see there the Starship passing in front of the Starlink V2 integration building, that white garage on your screen. That is where the kind of Pez dispensers are able to go and are stored with the Starlink V2s in there. We believe there are a number of satellites already in there. And as we pan a little bit more to the right here shortly, we'll see the build site fully come into view in the next couple of minutes. And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the Launchpad. You're looking at a live view where Starship S29 is just getting ready to pull up on the build site here in the next couple of minutes. It has paused on its movement at this point. This could be to allow traffic to move around it. There is a very long convoy of vehicles, I'm sure, built up behind it as everyone's following the developments as we prepare for Flight Test 3 in just over currently a day and a half is what they are targeting, but we are awaiting the FAA launch license. That has yet to be issued, but we're keeping a very close eye on our inboxes and social media as we await for that confirmation. But SpaceX head guy Elon confirming they want to do at least 6 more flights this year, and that they are hoping to fly by the end of the week. So they are monitoring weather conditions. We saw this happen also with some previous launch windows where they did have to slip with weather. They don't want to pull another SN11 where the most incredible, sad explosion of the Starship program nobody got to see, including SpaceX, because of the weather conditions. So with these being test flights, they need to be able to see the vehicle, and they're definitely not going to launch in conditions that they are not completely happy with, that also give Starship the best chance of success. So that is something that we are definitely keeping an eye on. There are some people reporting that the FAA does expect to be able to release the launch license in time for the Thursday launch window, if not for Friday. So the FAA is still working on that launch license to approve the SpaceX for flight, but SpaceX is preparing as such. We've seen them do this before back in the hop days of Starship, where they were just using the kind of second stage of the Starship Super Heavy system, that to the point where they were fueled, ready to do a hop, and got their launch license. Once they didn't even have one, but that they'll push it all the way, be ready, and then it's up to the FAA to say yes or no. So it's not surprising that they are running the clock and preparing the launch facility like they are. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad. We'll work on answering those live as we continue to watch S29 roll. It's continuing its journey. The Star Factory will be coming into view here momentarily. This is the new replacement for all of those tents that SpaceX built over the last number of years, moving everything into a more permanent facility, just like they've done with Tesla, building these very large facilities where raw materials go in one side, and for Starbase, almost completed rockets go out the other, because of the size of the building. They have to stack them in the high bay and the mega bays, but they'll be rolling out very large segments of rings in preparation for these. Ian, what is the frame / gantry moving ahead of S29? That's a great word, frame. That frame is holding what the crane used to lift S29 on and off of Suborbital Pad B. So it's a kind of a U-shape, for lack of better words, metal sticks. It's a flat piece with 2 hanging pieces that they are able to put onto the attachment points of Starship, just the same attachment points that they use to lift with the chopsticks, and then they can lift with the crane on and off the suborbital pad. They do this so they don't have to do the kind of squid that they were using before, where they had 4 or 5 attachment points on the top of the nose cone. But to do that, they had to take off heat tiles, which means they then had to install heat tiles. Now switching to this new system where they're able to use the crane and just pick it up at the same attachment points of the chopsticks. Makes it a lot faster. We were watching this. It did get lifted off of the pad while we were watching Crew 7 come home about 10 hours ago, but it was still hooked up to the crane not even 2 hours ago. And now here we are already back at the build site. Rollout from the crane to the door of the door of Highway 4, basically. The on-ramp of Highway 4, and journey was only about an hour and 5 minutes ago. That's when we ended up going live for this coverage. So a very quick process from being unhooked to arriving at the build site, where those squid attachments used to take quite a bit longer for the team to get up there, unhook, patch, disconnect the hooks from the ship. So just showing that SpaceX is always ever improving. Coming into view there on the right side of your screen, coming up here, is the Star Factory. This is their new building facility where they are making those rings, and you're going to get a really great perspective here of just how big this facility is with Starship passing by it. Almost half of a ship theoretically could be stacked on the inside at that highest point. And we're expecting them to develop this very much like a Tesla facility, where it's highly automated, almost conveyor systems of rings that are being moved along and welded autonomously and by people. That will then roll out into a high bay or a mega bay, and that's how they want to crank out one ship every 3 days is the goal, and one booster every 7. And they say that is what will be required for us to become multiplanetary in the next decade or so. The next Mars transfer window opens in about 2 years' time, the end of 2026. So it is highly expected that, though SpaceX isn't officially counting down to it, SpaceX is targeting to launch the first convoy of Starships to Mars for Mars demonstration flights in that launch window. And if everything goes well on that, it is possible that 22 months later, we would see the first people go on a journey to Mars. Now, whether they go to Mars and come back or they go to land, that is the big question to see. But this is no longer a question of if, it is a question of when, as long as Starship can complete these flight tests and prove that it is actually a functional vehicle that is able to launch, re-enter, land, and then eventually be reused. This is critical not only to go to Mars, but also for the Artemis program to land back on the surface of the moon. We have 2 lunar landers that are currently in the demonstration contracts. Of course, we have the HLS Starship variant. We also have Blue Origin's Blue Moon lunar lander, the kind of second generation of it. Both very different vehicles that both will have demonstration flights by the end of the decade, and then the NASA will pick which one, if not both, will be a sustainable lunar lander. These are currently demo lunar landers, and then they will pick one or both to be used for all the future Artemis missions. Panning a little bit more over here. Slight delay on the camera moving there. You can see truly the scale of this Star Factory. If you've been following the Starship program, the Star Factory was developed where all of the previous silver tents were. They took them down one at a time and built this. It really has changed the skyline of Starbase. It also has hidden a lot of the development that we all used to watch. Seeing all of the sleeving of different tanks and header tank development and all of that. But not surprising. These vehicles are ITAR restricted launch vehicles, so SpaceX needing to still have some secrecy as other nations are trying to copy and beat us to the moon and Mars. So it is not surprising that they have had these. you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll work on monitoring and answering those questions as we watch the final minutes as S29 journeys to the build site. We have had confirmation that Defender 1, one of the Marine assets that will be used for IFT-3, it was used for IFT-1, has shown up on Marine trackers, as seeing these Marine assets coming online is a great sign. They're doing their final testing and being prepared to monitor the port and the bay, as well as out in the ocean for the marine hazard zone that will be used for the flight test. Starship's going to hide here behind Star Factory, but gives us, as I said, a really incredible idea of just how big Starship is, but also how large this facility is, with you being able to really stack about half of a Starship inside and roll it out a garage, and then roll it into a high bay or a mega bay for final stacking and engine integration. We might even see engine integration happening in Star Factory. There's a lot of different possibilities of what will happen in this facility. Can take a moment, let us know in the chat, where do you think S29 is headed? Do you think it's going to go into one of the bays, or do you think they'll roll it to the rocket garden? Let us know there. Either way, we'll be able to see where it heads in the next 20 or so minutes. You can keep sending those questions as well. Carl, how many employees does SpaceX have? That is a good question. I have not looked that up in a while. Let me take a look. As of September 2023, they have had over 13,000. They had over 13,000 employees. They do have a couple subsidiaries that include Starlink and Swarm Technologies as well. So there is quite a range there. Based on a previous study, having a bit of the breakdown for them, the average employee salary is about $52,000 per year. Obviously, a large majority being engineers, designers, and executives in that type of position. Couple things SpaceX holds dear to their hiring practice is making sure that they're giving everyone equal opportunities. SpaceX quite proud to have over 14% of their entire workforce being women, and over a quarter of their workforce being different minority groups as well. Something SpaceX doesn't even try to look at. It's just something that they look for who's going to be best for the job, and that is who they end up hiring. And it's exactly how it should be, because there are some incredibly talented people that should be given those opportunities. Catching up on the chat in those questions. Ian, so close. Very close. And it fluctuates. It does fluctuate quite a bit. Can see the high bay and the 2 mega bays. Well, you can see one, but there are 2 there coming into view. You can also see one of the final remaining triangle tents on the very edge of your screen on the right. So the big question here is, does Starship S29 turn before the high bay, or does it proceed behind it and proceed to the rocket garden? Take a moment, let us know in the chat where you think it's headed. Build site or rocket garden? Hello, Tumos. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. If you guys are just joining us, you're looking at a live view as SpaceX is completing the rollback of Starship S29, clearing the orbital launch facility ahead of Thursday, or no earlier than Thursday's test flight of Starship. We have still no FAA launch license. We've been keeping an eye on it, hoping it was maybe going to drop because of Elon's tweets or posts on X, but nothing just yet. But we're keeping an eye, hopefully soon. Elon confirming they are saying end of the week. That is their goal. So end of the week, depending on the person, that means Friday, Saturday. Some people that means Sunday. Some Sundays the start of the week. So we are within 4 days of a Starship flight, as long as weather permits. Ian's thinking build site for some inspections. That's fair, especially after having done the spin prime there. Definitely a possibility. So we'll be keeping an eye on kind of the coloration of Starship. You can see just a little bit of the silver, mostly the heat shield. But when it does begin to turn either into the build site or rocket garden, we will see a lot more of that silver become visible as they make the turn onto one of those two kind of off ramps of Highway 4, either down the side road or into the build site region. And this road is on an angle, so it will turn a little bit the opposite direction first as it maneuvers. But it does look like they are beginning to turn into the build site. So, Ian, you were right. Looks like it's heading in somewhere to the build site. It'll head into one of the bays for protection, most likely some inspections as well. Super fun, happy time. Is it scrubbed? Nope. This is S29, so this will be used for the next flight test if everything continues to go to plan for Ship 29. If you are just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad at Starship S29, now officially off of Highway 4, pulling into the build site down at Starbase, Texas. Just an hour and 30 minutes ago, it was still hooked up to a crane out at the orbital launch site, and it has been disconnected and rolled all the way back to the build site ahead of the Starship Flight Test 3, which is currently targeting T-minus 1 day, 15 hours, 17 minutes, 50 seconds and counting to the opening of that 4-hour window. SpaceX does have backups on Friday and Saturday already scheduled, depending on how weather progresses. Elon saying they will launch by the end of the week. The final two things is weather and that FAA launch license. If it was your first time joining us here with our Starbase coverage, welcome. If it was your first time joining us at the Launchpad at all, welcome so much. We thank you for joining us and giving us a shot. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss another live launch coverage, Starbase coverage, exclusive one-on-one interview, factory tour, or in-space coverage. We cover everything here, from not only the big guys of SpaceX and NASA, but to the little guys from all over the world. Lots of startups doing demo flights over the coming years, and we're excited to bring you, because here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. As Ship 29 has arrived here, we're going to begin to wrap up our commentary coverage. You can send in those last questions in the chat for the next few minutes, and we'll work on answering those. But this camera isn't going anywhere. If you're watching on a live stream that says Live Starship S29 Rollback, just click the helmet icon for the channel down on the bottom left under the video. That'll take you to our channel, and you can click on our other stream, which is Live Starship IFT3 Countdown. That is where you can keep an eye on this 24/7 camera, our first of many coming, that you'll be able to see the status board for Flight Test 3 and the latest updates as we continue through the count. We will, of course, patch in commentary updates over the next day and a half as we get confirmation of that launch license. We'll begin monitoring the weather at T-minus 24 hours, bringing that up on the screen as well, along with more. So we hope that you will join us here for your full IFT3 launch coverage here on the Launchpad. Also, make sure you join us over on the TLP Discord. We'll be doing a IFT3 launch day watch party there, and we would love to see you there. If you haven't yet, also make sure you share out the 24/7 tracker. Invite people to join us. I know lots of people super excited for Flight Test 3, and we would love to have more people join in the excitement from all over the world. Now, with Starship now arrived at the build site, that is going to wrap up our rollout coverage, the first ever rollout coverage with our 24/7 camera here. That is only thanks to your guys' generous support that we are able to do things like this, and we are thrilled to get to bring you even better coverage. But from behalf of the entire TLP crew, some of which are in the air heading to Starbase right now, thank you so much for being here. And from our TLP Canada studio, stay with us as we continue to count down to launch of Starship Flight Test 3.